Let me begin by apologizing for us not being able to be at Monday Night for the Master tomorrow. I've got to go back to Birmingham and take care of some business after VBS, and it'll probably take me all evening and night, part of Tuesday as well. My wife, her sister, Adrian Thomas, is having surgery in Mobile, Alabama, Tuesday, so her and the kids, they'll be traveling down to Mobile to be with her and to help her out as well. So y'all keep the Adrian Thomas and family in your prayer. I know they would appreciate that as well. My lesson today is going to be tied into a large theme that I want to start. And the theme that I want to start is based around evangelism. It's based around trying to reach the lost, trying to bring people to Christ. And I think the only way for that to be effective, now there are a number of other things that are involved in it, but I pulled out 4 things that I thought were very important. But in order for it to be very effective, I've pinpointed 4 things that I want to pay close attention to over the next weeks or months or so when it comes to trying to do personal work for God. And they are, number 1, we've got to possess a knowledge of the gospel. There's no way to do personal work. There's no way to be evangelistic. There's no way to even bring your family members to Christ without a knowledge of the gospel. And I'm not talking about a knowledge of the Bible, but a knowledge of just the general things that people really need to know about Christ and what they need to do to be saved. Without a general knowledge of the gospel, what happens is we become frustrated, we become intimidated, we become ashamed to even start a conversation with people about Christ because of that lack of knowledge. So when we start increasing our knowledge about the gospel, then we begin to increase our confidence when it comes to communicating that message to people. The issue I've seen with many Christians is many Christians don't know where to start when it comes to increasing their knowledge. It is very difficult for someone to sit down and pick up the Bible and just start at a place in the Bible, and start reading, start studying, and then come away with what they think they need to know to be able to reach somebody. And so what I hope to do when I focus on your knowledge of the gospel, I hope to focus on very important things that you need to know in order to help people, but also a method whereby you can go to the scriptures yourself and obtain the information you need to build your knowledge at home or wherever you may be. Quick reference guide, so to speak, where if you're in a conversation with someone, you know what to do to either find the answer or to answer someone's question. So these lessons will be going back and forth. Number 2, a willingness to share the gospel. This comes with the idea of not being ashamed and having fear. I bet if I ask you to raise your hand, which I won't, if I ask you to raise your hand and tell me how many of you have a fear of rejection, I wonder how many hands will go up. Many people may not share the gospel with their friends and their families because they are afraid of being rejected. Rejection is a scary thing. We take rejection personally. And I was the same way when I first started preaching. I was scared to death to go to someone's door and knock on their door, and start a conversation. I was scared that people were going to tell me, get out of here. I don't want to talk to you. And I was right, but I was afraid of that. And because I was afraid of that, I didn't do any door knocking when I first started preaching. I was afraid of that. And so I know that if I was afraid of that as a gospel preacher when I first got started, then I know some of you are the same exact way. So how do we get over that? How do we overcome the idea of being afraid or the idea of being not necessarily ashamed because you're ashamed of Jesus, but just the idea that you don't want anybody to say that, oh, you think you're too good, you're good at two shoes, or the idea that you're going to be rejected when you start trying to talk to people about Jesus, or just whatever the reason may be. How do we overcome that? How do we get over that? I don't know all the answers, but in my lessons on that, I'm going to try to share some things that we probably can do to get over that fear of sharing the gospel with people, because if we don't share it, they'll never know it. Number 3, the approach with the gospel. Every approach doesn't work. And I think I have run a lot of people away with the gospel. Maybe you haven't. But I think it was a blessing for me also to have done that. And what I mean by that is this: not a blessing that they will run away, but a blessing because it let me knew what I was doing wrong. And without knowing what I was doing wrong, there was no way that I could have improved to do better. But I think there are methods to sharing the gospel with people that actually work, some that are better than others, and then some that will run people away. And I hope in those lessons that we can look at some ways of which we can better be able to approach people with the gospel. How do we do it? Do we go to Walmart and as we're shopping, we walk by somebody and we say, "Do you know Jesus?" I don't know, but we'll look at some approaches that may be relevant to any situation we find ourselves in. And then number 4, the one I want to start with today, is the biggest one of all, in my opinion. And that is the inward struggle that you and I face every day. To me, looking at my life, to me, this has been the greatest obstacle that has kept me from doing the work of the Lord. My personal life struggle. Those personal life struggles come in many, many packages. Those personal life struggles could be struggles within your marriage. Those struggles could be struggles with your children and things that are going on with your children. Could be things that are going on with your job. Could it be things that are going on with you personally and your self-esteem about who you are as a person? It could be things that are going on within the particular congregation where you worship. It could be things that you're not happy with there. It could be changes that are taking place that you're trying to adapt to and be comfortable with. Whatever it is, these things cause distraction. And when we become distracted, we take our eyes off of the work of the Lord. And I wonder sometimes, do we get to the point to where we feel like God excuses us because we have so much going on, or because we're so frustrated, or because we're so hurt, or because whatever we're going through is really taking a toll on us? I wonder sometimes, have we stopped to say, maybe God understands and is allowing me to have a reason not to do the work right now? I know for myself I have. I think the last 4 years of my life have probably been the most trying in recent years, with some things that I've had to go through in my family. And sometimes you never know why you go through what you go through. And many times when you go through things, people around you don't understand. Some of them do. People around you don't care. Some of them do. People around you have their mind made up. Some of them don't. You can't worry about that. But what we've got to do is try to figure out how to get beyond the distractions to where we can continue to focus on our work for the Lord in the midst of everything that we're going through. Being free from many distractions is the best way to serve and work for the Lord effectively. Now let me give you a verse that kind of talks about that concept. Turn your Bibles to 1 Corinthians chapter 7. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. This chapter here is not talking about evangelism. This chapter here is actually talking about marriage. But there's something in this chapter, there's a concept in this chapter that is very important when it comes to us serving God, when it comes to us working for God. And I think we can find it in this discussion about marriage. Now, Paul is having a discussion about marriage. He's talking about, people who've never been married. He's talking to people who are married, and he's offering them wise counsel when it comes to marriage. But I want us to look at verse 27 through 35. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, 27 through 35. Notice what the apostle says. Are you bound to a wife? Do not seek to be loosed. Are you loosed from a wife? Do not seek a wife. But even if you marry, you have not sinned. And if a virgin marries, she has not sinned. Nevertheless, such will have trouble in the flesh, but I will spare you. Notice that Paul said, if a virgin marries, such will have trouble in the flesh. Question, is it easy to do the work of the Lord? Is it easy to serve God while you have trouble in your life? No. No. Because when we have trouble in our life, the first thing we want to do is go home and not see anybody. We don't want to answer the phone. We don't even want to go to church services because that's going to require that we be around people. And right now, feeling like I'm feeling, I don't want to be associated with anybody. That's that feeling that we have. He goes on in verse number 29 and says, but this I say, brethren, the time is short, so that from now on, even those who have wives should be as though they had none. Those who weep as though they did not weep. Those who rejoice as though they did not rejoice. Those who buy as though they did not possess. And those who use this world as not misusing it. For the form of this world is passing away. But I want you to be noticed without care. I want you to be without care. He who is married, he who is unmarried cares for the things of the Lord, how he may please the Lord. But he who is married cares about the things of the world, how he may please his wife. There is a difference between a wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman cares about the things of the Lord, that she may be holy both in body and in spirit. But she who is married cares about the things of the world, how she may please her husband. And this, now watch this, verse 35. And this I say for your own profit, not that I may put a leash on you, but for what is prosper, that you may serve the Lord, notice, without what? Distractions. Paul says, man, when you get married, you have so many more distractions than a person who is not married, because when you become married, you take on a whole host of responsibilities for each other. He was not telling them not to get married. He's not telling you not to get married. But he is dealing with the concept. And the concept is the more cares you have in your life, the less you can focus on serving and working for the Lord. But the word that I'm looking at is the word distractions. And the distractions in our lives that cause us not to focus on God. Distractions can be very detrimental to us serving God. 4 examples very quickly of people who were distracted. Moses, Numbers chapter 11, verse 4 through 15, very quickly. Numbers chapter 11, verse 4 through 15. Numbers 11, 4 through 15. And if you got the bulletin, the news and notes is in there. If you want to just go ahead and be jumping to those verses after we finish reading 1. Numbers chapter 11, verse 4 through 15. Now the mix, here's some pages, turn. All right, here we go. Now the mixed multitude who were among them yielded to intense craving, so that the children of Israel also wept again and said, who will give us meat to eat? Okay, so I'm not going to read all of it, but they were complaining about meat. They were always complaining about food. They were complaining about what they were going to drink. They were complaining about everything. And this is another occasion where these people just started complaining to Moses about everything that was going on. And Moses heard it. And I want you to jump down to verse number 10. Moses heard the people weeping throughout their families and everyone at the door of his tent. And the anger of the Lord was greatly aroused, and Moses was also displeased. And so Moses says to the Lord, why have you afflicted your servant? And why have I not found favor in your sight, that you have laid the burden of all this people on me? Did I conceive all these people? Did I beget them that you should say to me, carry them in your bosom as a guardian carries a nursing child to the land which you swore to their fathers? Where am I to get meat to give to all these people? For they weep all over me, saying, give us meat that we may eat. I'm not able to bear all these people alone because the burden is too heavy for me. Does this sound like a man being distracted by cares? Does this sound like a man being distracted by troubles, by life? Absolutely. Verse number 15. If you're going to treat me like this, Lord, kill me now. Moses was at a point in his life to where he thought death was better than life. Been preaching a short 16 years. There was a point in time in my preaching earlier career to where I asked myself the question, man, is life really worth living? I didn't ask to be killed like Moses, but I've asked that question. And you know what? I'm no different than you are. The only difference between you and I is that our struggles are different. But we all have struggles that come in different packages. Moses, a man of God, a warrior of God, the most meek man in the Bible, got to a point in his life where his struggles distracted him from course. He was not ready to do the work of the Lord in this position. Not at all. Job chapter 3, very quickly. Job was a blameless and an upright man. We may say that Job didn't deserve the things that he went through, but really none of us deserve anything good. We have what we have. We are who we are by the grace, the goodness, and the love of God. And that's it. But Job went through a great deal. And I'm not sure about Job's evangelistic life because we don't have a lot of information about Job's faith and how he got his faith and what he did to keep his faith going. We just know he was a good man, he was an upright man, he was a righteous man, and that's all we're told. But let's assume that Job did have something going on in his life to where he introduced God to people. I guarantee you at this time in Job's life, it wasn't a lot of evangelism going on. As a matter of fact, in Job chapter 3, we hear some of the same sentiments that we hear from Moses. Look at verse number 1. Job opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. Verse 3. May the day perish in which I was born, and the night in which it was said that a man child is conceived. May the day be darkness, may God above not seek it, nor light shine upon it. Read the rest of the verses in your spare time. Joseph cursed the day of his birth. Joseph cursed the fact that his mother's womb was able to give birth to a child. Job cursed the fact that it was joy on that night. Job said, I wish the joy would have been turned into sadness. I wish I had never been born. This was a man distracted by life. This was a man distracted by the cares of the world. This was a man who could not serve God in this condition. This was a man that sometimes reminds me of the state of mind that I'm in from time to time, and maybe the state of mind that you find yourselves in from time to time, and that is the state of mind of distraction. Let's look at Jesus. In your time, in your own time, I got the reference down in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7 through 10. I want you to read about Paul's distraction, also the thorn in the flesh. Read that in your own time, but I want to jump to Jesus and look at his distraction. Luke chapter 22. Luke chapter 22. You say Jesus was distracted? I say yes. I say yes, he was. Jesus was distracted by everything. Jesus was distracted by the burden he had to carry to go to Calvary. He was distracted by his friends that turned their backs on him, that stabbed him in the back. He was distracted by the lies, the countless number of lies that were told on him. He was distracted by everything. How can a man like Jesus, so perfect, be done so wrong by so many people, especially those who are close to him? and then had to carry the burden of knowing what he was about to get at Calvary's cross. In Luke chapter 22, beginning with verse number 39, notice what it said. Coming out, he went to the Mount of Olives, and as it was his custom, his disciples also followed him. And when he had came to the place, he said to them, "Pray that you do not enter into temptation." And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's throw, and he knelt down and prayed, saying, "Father, if it is your will, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done." Now, I have to be careful that I don't paint a picture of Jesus just happy to go to the cross. Because I don't think Jesus was happy to go to the cross. I think he was willing to go to the cross. And I believe that if God could have came down and found another way, Jesus would have been happy about that. Because he said to God 3 times in a row, "Lord, take this cup from me. Take this cup from me. Take this cup from me. But not my will. Let your will be done." Why would you want someone to take something from you and you ask them 3 times if you sincerely want to face it? If you really want to face it with happiness and joy. I believe he sincerely was willing to give himself for us, but he did not want to face this stuff with joy and great anticipation. It was a burden, it was a distraction to him, in the sense that at this moment he had to bow down and pray to God for strength. And you know what? The Lord knew what he needed at this moment. Because if you look down to verse number 44, notice what it says. He was in agony. He prayed more earnestly. Then his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. You tell me this is not a person who was distracted at the moment. He was distracted at the moment. But he eventually, through his prayer, received strength from God. The Bible says in verse number 43 that the angels from heaven appeared doing what? Strengthening him. The only way that Jesus was able to stay focused on the work of God, the only way Jesus was able to stay focused on serving God's ultimate plan for our salvation is he had to pray and get strength from God Almighty to continue to move. But you know what he didn't do? He didn't allow the distraction to stop him from moving forward. He did not allow the distraction to stop him from working for God. So those are the examples. How do we overcome those personal struggles so that we can stay focused on serving God and working for God and overcoming these obstacles in our life? There are many ways out there. I've chosen a few to mention to you. Number one, we got to face these things with hope, patience, and prayer. Y'all know what I did today after Mark's lesson? I'm going to be copying Mark. He's going to hear me say something. He's going to be like, "Paul, I said that." I'm just letting you know, Mark, I'm stealing some of your stuff. I turned my tab in my Bible to Psalm chapter 40. Because when he was reading Psalm chapter 40, which I read before, but sometimes you don't really pay attention to these scriptures until somebody talks about them. And you're like, wow, man, that verse right there coincides with my lesson perfectly. About waiting on the Lord, hoping, being patient, waiting on the Lord. In Romans chapter 8 and verse number 28, turn over there very quickly. This is a verse that many people like. It's one of my favorite verses because this verse here gives me hope. When I'm facing personal struggles, this verse gives me hope that everything is going to be okay. Romans chapter 8 and verse number 28 says this right here. "We know that all things work together for the good of those who love God, those who are called according to his purpose." All things work together for the good. Not just the good things you go through, not just the good blessings that you perceive that God has given you in your life, but all of the trials, all of the tragedies, all of the struggles, all of the trials, the heartaches, the pains, the discomfort, all of the situations in your life that cause you to be distracted from God, those things work together too for your good. Have hope. Have hope. Think about Joseph. How could Joseph have hope in a dark pit when his family, his own family, turned their backs on him? But he did. How could he have hope being sold into slavery? But he did. How could he have hope when Potiphar's wife lied on him and he ended up in prison for 2 years because of a lie? But he did. He had hope, and in the end, he told his brothers, I am in the place of God. You meant it for my bad, but God meant it for my good. Everything that happened to me in my life was a plan for my journey. And God took the good and God took the bad and made me who I am. And I'm telling you that in your personal struggles, don't be distracted from the work of the Lord, because God is using that stuff to make you a better worker. You can believe that. He is making you a better worker. Number 2, have patience. Reflect back to the verse that Mark talked about this morning, Psalms 40, but also reflect on Isaiah chapter 40, verse number 31, another one of my favorite verses that I love. Isaiah chapter 40 and verse number 31. Isaiah 40 and verse number 31. Notice what it says. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. I think Jesus waited on God when he was praying. That's why he got that strength. I think Paul waited on God. That's why he was able to get strength. I think Moses waited on God. That's why he was able to get strength. I think Job waited on God. And that's why he was able to get strength as well. Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run, not be weary. They shall walk, and they will not faint. Don't be distracted from the work of the Lord because of the personal struggles you may be facing. Have hope that everything's going to be all right and that God is making you into the worker he wants you to be. And have hope and patience that God will come through with an answer in his own time, not our time. And then number 3, through prayer. We're not going to read Luke 18 and verse 1 through 8, but look at that in your time. Jesus says, pray and do not faint. Why did he say pray and do not faint or grow weary? Because Jesus knew that as human beings, you ever prayed about something and you prayed about it and prayed about it, you've been waiting for 2 months now and ain't nothing happened. Something ain't right. And then here's what you say then. You say, I done prayed about this thing 1 month. I done prayed about this thing. Okay, God, I'm going to give you 6 months now. But time is winding down. 6 months have passed. 6 months has passed. And now it is a year you've been praying about the